morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to the show, Hypnosoul Talk. On my YouTube channel, The Journey with Jen Snow. I'm Jen Snow, and I'm your clinical hypnotherapist, Reiki master, energy healer, soul regression coach. And today, whoa, that was almost a coffee spill. Oh boy. Yes, the pup he's in it today. He's having a mode. So good morning, everyone. Good morning, Diane. Good morning, Alex. Good morning, everybody on TikTok who's joining us. Our show today is going to be about some past life regression for change and for healing, and sharing the stories that my clients, their adventures, their journeys, their deep dive within, and some of their outcomes. And it's funny because I hadn't thought about this client story about sharing it, but we had a session yesterday. And I asked her if it would be okay, because that's what we were doing today on the show. And yeah, she was really excited to have her story shared. And it's a beautiful, powerful story. And she has really done the work, really come through she is on the other side of things now. So when she comes for sessions now, it's like just the last little bit of the cleanup bell, or, wanting to improve on creating new positive habits, and how past life regression soul regression can help you with that as well. So we're going to touch base on a couple of those. But first I'm going to explain a past life. A past life is, we look at it as a timeline that has once existed. Now, there are many different theories out there that say and believe that the timeline is all happening at once, everything is simultaneous, and we're just timeline jumping into different fragments, aspects of our soul that have incarnated into different, what we would consider time frames, to gather experiences, situations, and to go through life in this human experience, and to bring everything back to source. So depending on how you look at this, it's just for conversation's sake, I'm going to refer to it as a past life, a life that once existed but no longer is, even though energy cannot be destroyed. So it's just renewed as you come into this incarnation in a different way, in a different format, in a different avatar per se. But so a past life is an adventure backwards when we have something in our past life, or we need to go re-experience something. So many different ways that you can utilize these journeys to create change for you. So for some of us, we have experience in this present consciousness, this present incarnation, where it activates an old cell memory, a memory that once was, a memory that wasn't necessarily active in that moment, but because there's a impactful moment of emotions combined with emotions that we sense and recognize as familiar, it can activate old belief systems. Yes, he's standing at the door crying because he just wants to be outside because there's deer outside, and he is very determined that he should catch one. Even though he looks at them like, and then gets this really deep bark, but then stops and is like, I really don't know what to do from here. But he believes he deserves to get one. And we have this doe who, since our fires, she's been hanging around our property because I did put up an energetic grid around the property, inviting any of the animals that needed sanctuary to come, because we do have a pond behind us. And so since doing that, the bird life and the deer life has really picked up. And we have this one beautiful doe who's actually quite used to me, and she's not really that afraid of me. We can talk and we can hang out within like 10 feet of each other, and she's really sweet. But Walker has decided that it is his mission now, especially this morning, because she was outside the bedroom window when I got up, hanging out, and Walker happened to see her. So he's quite upset that, he doesn't get to go. We're going to call it play, because I think like once he got near her, if they were actually to like connect and get along, he'd be like, okay, I've got a ball and a stick, and you should probably want it. But if you don't, that's okay too. So a little detour there. But past lives, the emotional imprint of that cell memory of what once was can get activated into the present now. And those old belief systems can come rolling forward, and they become a part of us because they once were a part of us, and we've experienced those before. And we can begin to redefine. And sometimes we get stuck with our frozen pieces outside of our core. And those frozen pieces are very strong, very powerful, very integrated into our everyday life, whether we're conscious or unconscious of it. And so sometimes when we go back to a past life, we can unwind the emotional connection. And, we often, like, for instance, when we go back to the past life, we work through all the negative things that happen in that life, the things that we perceive as negative. And everybody's going to have a different tone on this. Everybody's going to none of us would look at the same past life and take away the same information. So as we go through and we land in these experiences that our souls have had or are having, depending where you are on that in your mindset and what resonates with you, we can move backwards to time, to the childhood, and we can come through gathering all the information that we need, the pinnacle significant moments, because it's the significant moments that are impactful. Now, what is a significant moment? Again, that is going to be something that lies with you. What I believe a significant moment might be, what you believe a significant moment might be, could be totally 100% completely different. And that's okay. That's perfect. So as your guide, your hypnotherapist, your soul regression coach, it is my job to be the narrator, to take down all of the information and every between the lines a little bit when it comes to the screening side of things, to add, anything that might have been there. And that's where the intuitive mediumship side comes in, because your higher self is chatting away the entire time. And it's funny because a lot of times the higher self will be like, yeah, there's more here. Keep rolling that forward. And we go through it and we end up gathering up even more, because sometimes when we ask you to go to the next significant moment in time to you, you go forward, but you don't quite get into the big moment. So sometimes we got to roll forward and just see where that moment, that scene takes us. And again, we're gathering the information that is holding you back. That is, that deep cellular information that might be the cause, the origin of what is creating the belief system that is no longer aligning with where you want to be, or the habit, or the emotional wound, the burden, the weight. And sometimes you end up in a life that's not yours, but it's a part of your generation and your legacy. And again, unwinding. And as we unwind those old cycles and patterns, those old ideas and belief systems, those old burdens and weights and emotional wounds, we begin to clear space for you and more of your light body to integrate into your core, which then downloads and activates into this present incarnation, which really aligns and it really activates that inner truth and that inner essence and power and sense of connection and knowingness with the space of creation and manifesting, and really changing your reality and moving forward towards the direction that you might be working towards. Because sometimes we work towards things and we're like, bam, hit another wall. And that wall could be potentially either, in regression work, age regression work, it is something that where you end up in this present incarnation and need to unwind that. Or in past life regression, we head backwards. And heading backwards is kind of fun. The first time that you do it, it almost feels unreal, but so real that because you recognize that soul as yourself, like you're like, well, that's not what I look like, or, I'm a totally different person, but it's you. I had one client who went to, it was her first session. We weren't actually we were just starting to get rid of the surface layers, but she ended up just kind of threw a sentence out there to see how she would go, because, sometimes I feel like, swinging for a fence, and she was on board to see what happened. She'd never experienced hypnosis before, and she went flying backwards. She actually ended up in a past life and had no idea, never thought she could do it, was just kind of trying out hypnosis because people talk about it. She's read a lot of books on it. And got to that life. And when she came out, it was like, oh my God, that was totally me. I knew that was me. And was shocked. Her shock and awe. And it was a really cool, positive past life. It was just really neat to experience it. And the energetic unwinding that happened was amazing. And it was just about the experience of the journey. And sometimes that's all you need, is the experience of the journey that unlocks the opportunity and the door for you to explore even further as you decide and determine to do so. And for that past life, there wasn't really much healing around it. It was just the purpose of her going back there was to open that door so that when she decided she wanted to work through some of the things, the emotional burdens that she'd been carrying, the weight that she'd been feeling in her present now incarnation, and she was ready to do so and really knew that that was her avenue, because she dropped in and went so quickly. It was amazing. And so for her, it was just literally the experience. And she's actually watched some of my recordings where we've done past life, and she went back and actually ended up unwinding and unraveling some things on her own because the tools were there. And that's sometimes the purpose of it. That was the purpose, was to give her the experience so she can do some of the work on her own. And I'm a firm believer in that. Once we open this door, once you have that experience, the door is wide open if you choose to walk through it. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine too. I go and get sessions. You guys have all seen them online. And sometimes you need to be the client and only the client, not the client and the therapist kind of thing. So that was one of her great moments where she was like, wow, okay, I can do this. And so that past life regression was just simply about her opening the door. And that door has opened quite widely for her. And it's been a beautiful kind of thing to watch and kind of sit on the sidelines and cheerlead for, because she is creating so much change, and so much is happening for her just by simply allowing her subconscious, allowing her soul to take her where she needs to go to help her in the very best way. And that is a statement that she's using. And she has the tools, because when we finish that session, I'm a firm believer in teaching you how to do this. A firm believer. So I teach everybody I work with, okay, so when we get to this point, this is what this is how you get there, if you so choose. My Tuesday night classes, we do this a lot, and everybody in those classes goes through their experience, and I guide, but everybody is able to kind of work through or take what they need and then go back and revisit and that might be a thing where you go back to a past life more than once, or you may leave the multiverse more than once. And you go there and you take what you need bit by bit, and you unravel things as you need, and you are prepared to do so, because things can be in stages. Not all of us like that. Let's be honest. I don't like it. I really don't. But I've had to learn to enjoy the fact that sometimes I can't be the bull in the china shop. And no, I am not a Taurus. I am more stubborn than a Taurus because I'm a Capricorn and I want it done now. However, some of my greatest healings, I will admit, have been in stages. And simply the lesson learned there was quite profound, but I had to go through that experience to understand that. So if that is something you're going through, you find yourself going back to the same place, one of the questions I ask myself when I've gone back to this particular alternate universe is, what is it that I'm supposed to see and know and understand now? And usually I find that I will go to the pinnacle moment in that life. I don't have to go through the whole life. I just drop in where that moment is. And that can be equally as powerful. You do not have to go through the entire past life to experience it, to gather the healing from it. If you end up dropping into a scene and that is all the only place you need to go, that's perfect too, because that scene means something to you. That scene resonates with you and you resonate with that scene somehow. So those 3 questions are going to be big, powerful questions. And what is the purpose of the scene that I am now remote viewing or I've dropped into? And then working through and moving forward to the moment of transition so that you can screen that life out, leaving everything in that scene or that lifetime that you've incorporated into your present incarnation that no longer is needed or is not helping you for your highest and greatest good in that lifetime, as an experience that you have had that you can draw on, but the lessons have been learned, the cycles have been understood, the patterns have been broken, and you can move forward from those patterns, cycles, and any of the quote-unquote negativity that you may have experienced in that life, so that life is back to the Akashic records or your record keeping, your blueprint room, and it is stored there so that if you ever need to touch base to gather information, wisdom, knowledge, and knowingness from it, you can just go view it versus having to relive it. And that's what we're doing. We're putting those lives into a perspective that you can go view it versus having to relive it. There was a saying, and I can't remember who said it, so I'm going to fumble a little bit here, but, an unlucky man learns through their experience, and a lucky man learns through my experience. And I just recently reread that quote, and it made me think a little bit. It's very interesting as we go back to these alternate incarnations and these past life incarnations, so the progressive incarnations. There's a lot to be gathered from it, but it doesn't mean we have to relive those cycles. We can learn from our what once was or what is happening, but we can learn from it. We can take it, gather the information, allow us to understand the experience, the purpose of the experience, and what we need from that experience to help us choose as we go forward. So we bring back that flow of free will in a way, because when we become aware of choices that we once made and what the outcome was and how it made us feel and where we are stuck, then we can actually begin to unwind that and then choose it differently. And those choices become more natural and automatic. So that's another purpose to past life healing for change. It gives us the opportunity to come back to that space of a little more free will, where we are consciously making decisions instead of the unconscious mind guiding us because of our previous experiences or our alternate experiences, depending on your point of view on that one. I truly believe both are right. So, my client that we had yesterday. Now, for those of you who don't know, that I do in-person and I do online sessions, depending on your location. And one's not better than the other. It just depends on who you are and, if we're able to be in face-to-face. But I don't ever find a difference when it comes to the success rate of it, unless you have a deep-rooted belief system that you can't do it online or you can't do it in person. That would definitely change things. So this client, she's been working through a lot of emotional wounds. And we've been post-traumatic stress syndrome, like big time. It's been her biggest wall in her life, but the integration of her entire present incarnation and what she experiences that she's had in this life have really been built up and built this wall. And she had a significant event in her life that really triggered everything into compounding it all into right now. Like she was reliving everything over and over again. And so she has done her journey in her own way. And she has done it step by step. And she has done it in her time. And that's the one thing, guys, we all, like I said, want to get done, but finding your timing with your journeys and your shift in change and your comfort level with change, that's a big thing. We can rip away a lot of layers and we can unwind a lot of things quickly and easily. But if that change jolts you and that change is hard on you, you get what we call like the self-healing hangover, and it's exhausting and it feels daunting. And it doesn't, have to be that way. I'm not saying this is roses and sunshines. It has not been roses and sunshines. It is work. We got, we're not, just, creating positive habits, but we're also unwinding the old things that no longer work for us. So I'm not going to lie to everybody. The change is powerful, but it is work, and it is commitment to yourself and to your own self-discovery. And so you have to find your moment. This one client, she comes once a month. That is her. It takes her that month to really integrate, download, and really process the change that she makes, because my sessions are very different than other people's. They're 3 hours long. They are. Sometimes 4. Not intentionally 4, but sometimes they are. Because we're doing like a mini workshop. Actually, a friend said that to me. She's like, so you do a mini workshop every time you work with somebody? I'm like, oh, I actually never thought about the mini workshop thing. But yeah, we do. We spend time diving through, peeling back layers. We spend time, communicating, talking, shifting the outer layers before we even go into what some consider the deep dive journey. It's all really a deep dive, but it's not all just done with our eyes closed, going on a guided journey to tapping in, but we're tapping in as soon as we begin. And so these sessions are big, and we peel lots back. And sometimes we peel only one thing back because it's a massive thing. So every session is unique, but there are a lot. So this one client, she like once a month is her jam, and that's perfect. But the change that she made, she came in yesterday and was like, from her last past life journey, where she went back to a life where she felt loved. Now she went back to 1830. She had a family of 6. She was in the UK and was living on a manor. And these were her words. A simple, loving, warm life is how she viewed that life. And it was really kind of beautiful watching her move through the significant moments in that life, because every moment was filled with laughter and joy. And there were some hard times, but the hard times didn't dictate her view on life, the way she moved through life. And when we got to the end of the life, there wasn't really much that we wanted to leave behind, but actually in that life, we were working towards did she want to bring back into her current incarnation? What information, what wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and knowingness did she want to bring back? And it really was that warmth of having a family and feeling the warmth of her family within her and the love that her family had and how much she enjoyed that. So that was the energy she actually brought back, and she integrated it into her physical, mental, emotional, and energetic vibrational self, that piece of her. And since that regression, she is feeling like she has changed so much. And I've known this particular woman for a long time. She actually started out as a Reiki client, because before I was doing hypnosis and doing what I was doing, I was utilizing Reiki and doing guided meditations. Life got me here for my own journey. And so watching her move through the past life regression work that we've been doing has just been profound. She was talking about how something simple like her in the kitchen, not really enjoying people watching her cook or anything like that. That is completely shifted for her. She feels confident to share who she is with the world after that past life. And it was bringing back that warmth of that family love. And she has a great family here. It wasn't about lack of family. It was just about re-experiencing that soul joy, as she put it, and that contentment. And when she brought that piece back, she just felt more whole. And since then, she's feeling more confident. She is moving to the world, actually expressing and communicating how she feels and what she needs. That is the biggest change for that I've seen, is that she is now confident in communicating what she needs. And in that communication, all the fears around communicating what she needs has actually dissolved and melted away. And the outcome of being able to communicate what she needs is actually shifting and really supporting herself as a whole, but also her outside relationships with her friends and family. And so she's glowing now. And that was a big change. And sometimes the lives that we go back to aren't ones that are like traumatic and a lot. Sometimes they are, not gonna lie. But unwinding them and releasing them, learning the lessons that, and understanding the purpose of them does shift how we carry them. And those couple simple things will shift a lot for you. If you move back into an incarnation and, you can only gather a couple things, gathering the purpose. What does this life mean to you? What was the purpose of that journey? And how are you holding it? And how does it resonate with you? Asking those couple questions would, really create a huge unwinding if you're carrying that life in your present now and it's not helping you in the very best way it can. So, and then, so I've got so many stories. Another client, so we were working with procrastination, kind of lines up with Wednesday's meditation of unlocking your focus, right? And part of that, and that was this is the life I was going to talk about today. I just ended up having a couple more come to mind that I thought would be appropriate. So procrastination. I have struggled with procrastination. I know a lot of people do struggle with procrastination. So one of the things that we can do is talk to the piece of you, the part of you, or the habit or the pattern of procrastination, depending on how you word it, and ask that to take it back to its origins to help in the very best way. And I had this one client end up on a totally different universe. It was an aqua world. And in that world, there was a lot of, that life was very traumatic, and she was a different being. She was not a humanoid, but she was not a part of the aqua part of that world, but she kind of lived in, in the air above, and they were kind of winged, but they were able to also integrate into the water. So they were kind of both land and water beings. And this being, there was a war going on, and that war caused a lot of trauma. And this being, and then in that multiverse, she wasn't able to, and I say she because it's a client's woman, wasn't able to defend her family. And she went into a deep space where she integrated that feeling, that emotion of loss and anger, and she turned that into procrastination in this incarnation. So what was the point of trying if she was just going to fail anyhow? And that was what was really driving the part of her to create procrastination, because it was trying to protect her from failure. So as we unwound that life, we came out of it, and the purpose of that life was to actually experience failure. That was the purpose and journey of that incarnation in that multiverse space. And so when she understood that, it was like this light bulb went off. She's like, oh my God, my entire life has been about avoiding failure, because I always felt like it would mean that I would lose everything. And so we unwound that belief system. And when we came back into this present incarnation, back into the here and now, we talked to the part of her that was creating procrastination, and we're able to renegotiate and redefine it and reshift it. That piece actually, in its shadow form, became the part of her that was her motivation, and her motivation for creativity. So as that part reintegrated into the whole, it came back in its light form as the motivation for creativity. And since that unwinding of that experience and incarnation, she has taken off in her business, and she is a beautiful photographer, and she is just, wow, the things that she's accomplished in the 6 months since that last session have been unreal. She's just on the go. She is back into her groove. Her passion is driving her now. And it's just really beautiful to watch her success, and the abundance that she is attracting in her passion has just unfolded. Like, it is just receiving, and she's just absorbing it. So it's been really neat to watch this particular client unfold. So, sometimes we need to go back, whether it be a human incarnation, a non-human incarnation, a progression, alternate timeline. Let's talk about an alternate timeline. So, because this is kind of fun. This one was kind of interesting. So, had a client go back to an alternate timeline. A fragment of their soul had integrated somewhere else in the world at the same time, was a totally different person, not like nothing. There was no similar anything. And that person, that incarnation, that fragment of her soul was going through a great deep depression. And actually this person, when she kind of was remote viewing this life, was like, wow, that is me. And the reason we went there was because she had been feeling sad most of her life, but never understood why she was feeling sad. She had a great life. She's like, I have no reason to feel sad, but I feel sad. And I've gone to the doctors. I've done everything. There's no medical reason why. I take my vitamins. I do everything that I'm supposed to do, but there's this underlying frequency of sad. And so we went into that alternate timeline. And when she connected with it, we asked what the purpose was, because she recognized, she's like, that's me. I'm totally different. So we went through the life, we did a lot of screening out, and the purpose of that incarnation was that version of herself actually got lost, got off track. So what she wanted to do after we released all the negativity and the connection to sadness, the thread of sadness, the cycle of sadness, the pattern of sadness, is she actually sent that piece of her soul so much love. And she brought the universe down and plugged that universe into that soul, in that piece of hers, crown chakra, and bubbled that piece up, and just really, felt a lot of compassion and kindness. When we came out of that incarnation, and, I think it was about 4 weeks, it was just crazy how that feeling, that thread, that frequency that was hers, but not hers, unwound itself almost immediately, she said, when we were talking. And she's like, yeah, it was like the next day I was 50% less sad. By the end of the week, I was a whole different person, because that thread that emotion had always been underlining. She's like, I smile more, I laugh more, I find more joy and peace in the world, and more understanding that I can not only bring love to myself, but I can send love to the fragments of my oversoul that might be experiencing different things simultaneously. And it was just really cool to watch that unwind. So that is today's show, some past life regression, alternate life timeline regression, and how impactful it can be if that's where your journey takes you. I think we'll do another show on how coming back into this incarnation, back into childhood, and we're going to talk about that next, because it's as powerful as past life is, age regression is just equally as powerful, because we can unwind so much. And there are a couple schools of thought that if you end up in a past life, you bring that moment back to this life where you're integrated and you unwind that way. There's so many cool ways to do this. You just have to find your person that you resonate with and the person that you align with, because that's going to be what, really gets you into that space of connection. So I hope that you're having an amazing day. And somehow I didn't go live on YouTube. So, oh boy. All right, guys, have a great day. Thank you for your time and energy, and we will talk soon. Cheers.